The great hall didn't just go quiet. It died. Alpha King Draven froze mid-step. He ignored the wall of perfume coming from the 20 Duke's daughters, waiting for his hand. He ignored the silk. He ignored the ambition. He looked down. Something small was anchoring his foot to the floor. A toddler. Tiny, grease-stained fingers gripped the polished black leather of his boot. Draven didn't see a scullery brat. He stared at the face upturned to his. He saw the sharp, unmistakable slope of his own nose. And then the world stopped turning. He saw the eyes. They weren't the dull brown of a servant. They were violet. My eyes. Chapter 1. Don't. Breathe. Seraphina's hand clamped over Ash's small mouth. Her ribs caged a frantic bird, battering against the bone. Thump, thump. Heavy boots shook dust from the ceiling rafters. The grey powder coated her eyelashes and settled on the boys until they looked like ash-covered ghosts. Mama? Leo's whisper was a tiny squeak in the dark. Shh. The princess voice died 3 years ago. Only Finn remained. Low, rough, scared. We are playing the statue game. If you move, the stone giants eat you. Silas wiggled. His nose crinkled. Panic clawed at her throat. A sneeze meant death. It meant the guards dragging them into the light. It meant revealing eyes the color of bruised violets. She needed a distraction. Her fingers dug into the cold dirt. Hard edges grazed her skin. The wooden soldier, carved from firewood, missing a leg, ugly as sin. She jammed the rough wood into Silas's palm. Look. Her breath tickled his ear. The soldier is watching. Hold it in. Silas blinked. He gripped the toy until his knuckles whitened. The sneeze died. Above, the footsteps halted. Seraphina squeezed her eyes shut. Damp earth filled her nose. The rotting sack of turnips in the corner coated the back of her throat with a thick, sour paste. Disgusting, but safe. Are they gone? Leo asked. Not yet. She gathered them close. Warmth radiated from their small bodies. They smelled of milk and soil. Innocent, not like the Alpha King. Not like pine and storm clouds. Not yet. But soon. Soon they would smell like him. And then he would kill them. Alpha King Draven didn't tolerate rivals. He didn't tolerate half-breeds. And he certainly wouldn't tolerate the secret spawn of his greatest enemy. A hinge groaned at the top of the stairs. A blade of light sliced the darkness. It cut across the dirt floor. Seraphina turned to stone. Her lungs locked. The wooden soldier slipped from Silas's fingers. Clack. It rolled across the packed earth. Into the light. Against the toe of a polished black boot. Her heart stopped. A hand reached down. Scarred, dangerous. It claimed the broken toy.
The castle reeked of lies. Draven stood at the cellar mouth, staring into a pool of ink. He belonged in the great hall, enduring the southern dukes and their offerings of terrified daughters. He hated it. Perfume stung his nose. Fear spiked in their scent, sour and sharp, every time he looked their way. They didn't want him. They wanted the crown. They wanted the monster who broke the north. He stepped away. The air cleared. A trail pulled him here. Not roasted pork, not wine. Wild. Crushed wildflowers buried under snow. Faint, hidden beneath grease and old onions. But his wolf snapped its jaws at the taste. Mine. Quiet. The cellar was a black pit. Why was that scent down here? He took the first stair. Wood groaned under his weight. Something rolled across the dirt below. Clack. Clack. It hit his boot. Draven froze. Leather gloves creaked as he made a fist around the object. He lifted it into the light. A toy soldier. Crude. Carved with a dull blade. But the face wasn't smiling. It snarled. Someone had carved a warrior. Who was down there? His voice wasn't a question. It was a command vibrating against the stone. Silence. Then thump, 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 thump. 3 distinct rhythms and a fourth. Faster, terrified. He descended. Shadows parted for the Alpha. At the bottom, a huddle of shapes behind a barrel stack. A scullery lad in a grease-stained tunic. Cap pulled low. Dirt smearing every inch of skin. The scent hit him like a physical blow. Wildflowers radiating from the soot-stained creature. And the children. Draven narrowed his eyes. 3 toddlers stared back, filthy, rat-like. But they had his nose. His wolf slammed against his ribs. Poops. Draven stepped forward. The lad scrambled back, bodies shielding the children. A rusty paring knife flashed in the gloom. A knife? Against him? He almost laughed. Almost. The lad's hand didn't shake. Knuckles white. Grip perfect. This wasn't a cowering servant. This was a soldier holding the line. Their eyes locked. Electricity jolted down his spine. Under the cap, under the dirt, purple. Violet, the color of northern royalty. The family he slaughtered to take this throne. You. The word scraped his throat. You aren't a servant. He tossed the wooden soldier. It landed at the lad's feet. And those aren't rats. The air burned between them. The lad stood. The disguise fell away in the set of the shoulders. Run, the woman whispered. Draven smiled. A predator's grin. Nobody runs from me?
The cellar air froze. Seraphina's knuckles turned white around the rusted paring knife. Dull blade, cracked handle, a toothpick against a thunderstorm. She raised it anyway. Stay back. The command didn't belong to a servant. It belonged to a woman trained to lead armies before she learned to walk. Draven didn't blink. He took another step. The wooden stairs groaned under a massive weight. He filled the damp space, radiating a heat that warred with the cellar's chill. Rain and hot iron flooded her nose. The scent of violence, a dark, dry laugh rumbled from his chest. You think you can stop me with a potato peeler, little mouse? I think I can make you bleed. She shifted, a human shield between the monster and her triplets. Silas clung to her leg. Leo stood with small fists balled up. Fear tasted like copper on her tongue. Draven stopped. Gold flecks burned in his eyes. He didn't look at the knife. He stared at her neck, at the pulse hammering against her dirt-stained skin. The world narrowed. His gaze shifted, past her, to the boys. The northern look. His voice dropped. The mockery vanished, replaced by a lethal curiosity. Purple eyes, pale hair, but... He leaned in. He inhaled. Seraphina's secret unraveled in the dark. They smell like me. Silence crushed her chest. A confession meant death. A lie meant death. She lunged. The blade sliced the air, aimed for his shoulder, a desperate bid for 3 seconds. 3 seconds for them to run. She never made contact. Steel fingers clamped around her wrist. He didn't roar. He didn't strike. He just twisted, clatter. The knife hit the dirt. Foolish. He yanked her forward. Her chest collided with hard leather armor. You don't attack the king in his own castle. He released her. In the same motion, he scooped Leo from the floor. No! The scream tore from her throat, raw and jagged. Draven ignored her. He held the boy up, examined the terrified pout. You're coming with me. He turned his burning gaze on Seraphina, all of you.
The boy weighed nothing. Hollow bird bones wrapped in rags. Draven's grip tightened on the child. Not from aggression, from a sudden, blinding rage that coated his tongue in ash. Who starved a child of his blood? The world would burn for this. Put him down. The woman, the mother, vibrated with fury. She wasn't shaking from fear. She looked ready to tear out his throat with her teeth. He liked it. Court ladies fainted when he growled. This dirt-stained creature wanted war. I said we are leaving. He turned his back. The ultimate test. A king never exposes his spine to an enemy. If she was an assassin, she would strike now. She didn't. She scooped up the other 2 boys and scrambled after him. Draven climbed the stairs. His mind raced faster than his boots. 3 boys, 3 years old. The math was simple. It was terrifying. The night the northern capital fell, the smoke, the screams, and a woman he never saw. Just the scent of wildflowers. That scent now clung to his leather armor. He burst into the kitchen. Motion stopped. A ladle clattered to the stone floor. Guards snapped to attention, eyes bulging at the sight of their king clutching a scullery brat. "Your Majesty?" The captain stammered. "Shall we take the prisoners to the dungeon?" Draven froze. Leo reached out. A tiny, grimy hand touched the gold clasp of his cloak. The dungeon? For his own blood? No. The word rumbled through the room like distant thunder. "Clear the royal wing." The captain blinked. The royal wing, sire? But that is for the queen. Did I stutter? The guards scrambled. Armor clashed against stone. Draven marched. He didn't wait. Seraphina trailed him, panting, struggling with the weight of 2 toddlers. But she glared daggers at every servant they passed. He kicked open the heavy oak doors of the royal chambers. Lavender and expensive wax hit him. The fire crackled, warm and inviting. He set Leo on the velvet rug. The boy's eyes went wide. Seraphina rushed in. She dropped the brothers and corralled them into a corner. Her body curved around them, a shield of bone in defiance. She eyed the silk sheets, the gold-framed mirrors. Then, him. "What is this?" She spat the words. "A cage?" Draven backed into the hall. He looked at the fire in her eyes, the dirt on her cheek, the fierce protection of his sons, enemy, mother. "It's not a cage." He pulled the heavy door shut. "It's a nursery." The lock clicked. He had just locked himself in with the only problem he couldn't kill.
Steam choked the room. White marble, gold fixtures. It wasn't a bathroom. It was an operating theatre. Thick, oily lavender clogged Seraphina's throat, suffocating the memory of the cellar's rot. "Let us take them, miss." The maid reached for Silas. Soft hands, hands that never bled, hands that had never carved a toy from firewood. Slap. Seraphina's palm connected with the maid's wrist. A wet, sharp crack echoed off the tiles. The maid recoiled, clutching her arm. I only meant to help. The king ordered..." "Touch him again." Seraphina stepped forward, mud dripping from her boots onto the pristine white floor. "And you lose the hand." The 3 maids scattered like frightened birds. They eyed her like a feral dog wandering into a cathedral. "Good." Seraphina snatched a scrub brush. Stiff bristles dug into her palm. A weapon. "Get in." The boys scrambled. Warm water turned grey instantly. Mud swirled with expensive oils. The lavender died, replaced by the scent of wet dog and terror. She dropped to her knees. Scrub. Bristles rasped against Leo's skin. Pink turned to red. "Mama, it hurts." "I know." Her heart fractured against her ribs. "We have to get the castle off you." She scrubbed harder. She had to scour away the scent of the alpha. If they smelled like clean, generic babies, maybe he wouldn't see the truth. Maybe he wouldn't see himself. Tears pricked her eyes. She blinked them away. Princesses didn't weep. Soldiers didn't weep. She grabbed the soap. Slick. It shot from her trembling fingers. Plop. Ripples distorted the grey water. A shadow fell over the tub. Seraphina looked up. Draven filled the doorway. No armor. Just a loose white shirt. Open at the throat, revealing scarred skin. A predator at rest. He stared at the drain. At 3 years of hiding, washing away in a swirl of grey filth.
She should be cowering. She should be weeping into silk pillows. Instead, she was on her knees on the wet tile. A drowned rat. Hair plastered to her skull, tunic soaked, clinging to ribs that poked through the fabric. But her arms moved with terrifying violence. She wasn't bathing the children. She was exorcising them. attacking the dirt like an enemy combatant. "You'll take their skin off." His voice rolled low against the marble. She spun, the scrub brush raised like a dagger. Water sprayed his boots. "They are my sons. I decide how they are washed." Draven stepped through the steam. The dirt was gone. The world tilted on its axis. The jaw lines, the eyes, the way the smallest one glared from the safety of the water. A mirror from 30 years ago. Pack, blood, mine. "They aren't just your sons." He crouched. Expensive trousers soaked up the puddle on the floor. He ignored the brush brandished at his face. He reached into the gray water. His fingers closed around the soap. He held it out. A peace offering. A challenge. Her eyes were wild. She wasn't cleaning them. She was checking for damage. She expected him to break them. "I don't hurt children." He kept his tone flat. "And I don't hurt the mothers of my children." Seraphina's grip on the brush loosened. "You killed my father." A fact. A cold stone thrown at his head. Draven didn't flinch. "I killed a tyrant, and I saved 3 princes." He stood, water dripping from his fingertips. "Finish. Dinner is in an hour, and wear the dress. You look like a potato sack." He turned. He walked. He had to leave. The lavender was dead. The room reeked of wet wildflowers and angry female. If he stayed, he would do something stupid. Like drag her out of that wet tunic to see if the rest of her skin was as fiery as her eyes.
The blue silk lied. It clung like a second skin, exposing curves hidden beneath grease and wool for 3 years. Seraphina stared into the polished silver platter. Finn, the servant boy, was dead. A ghost stared back. Princess Seraphina of the Northern Pack. "Sit." Draven sat at the head of the long table. Firelight licked the scar cutting through his eyebrow. No crown, just the lethal grace of a predator holding a fork. She sank into the velvet chair. It was too soft. It felt like quicksand. No food, just parchment and a quill. "Eat." He pointed to the roasted venison with his knife. "But first, sign." Seraphina touched the paper. Her fingers were steady, ice cold. She read the terms. Ward of the Crown. Protected guest. Surrender of parental rights. A cage. A gilded, velvet-lined cage where she would rot while he turned her sons into soldiers. A laugh clawed its way up her throat. Sharp. Glass. Breaking. "You think I will sign this?" Draven didn't pause his chewing. "You have no choice. You are a servant with no army. You have 3 children who need protection from the wolves at my door. I don't need your protection, and neither do they." She shoved the paper aside. She reached for the crystal goblet. Heavy, expensive. She tipped it. Dark red liquid bled across the pristine white linen, a wound opening on the table. Draven stood. His chair scraped violently against the stone floor. "What are you doing?" Seraphina didn't look up. She dipped a finger into the pool. Cool, sticky wine. She drew a line, a curve, 3 X's. "Your southern border is weak." Her voice dropped to the low, tactical register of a war room. "The river dried up last summer. You have guards here and here." She tapped the red spots. "But the mud flats are solid now. A small force crosses at night." The air in the room thickened. She looked up. She met his gaze. "If I were leading the rebellion, I wouldn't attack your gates. I would walk right through your back door while you were busy writing contracts."
The wine wasn't a stain. It was a map. A perfect bleeding map. Draven's mind raced. The dried river. His generals missed it. They thought the mud was deep enough to swallow horses. But she knew. A scullery maid didn't know tactical geography. A servant didn't know migration patterns. A terrified mother didn't look at a king with that kind of cold, calculating arrogance. He looked at her. Really looked. The chin held high. The wine-stained finger that didn't tremble. The realization punched him in the gut. This wasn't Finn. This wasn't a village conquest. You. He circled the table. Slow, approaching a wild animal that had just bared its teeth. The temperature in the room spiked. The mud flats, he said softly. My father died on those flats, a trap set by the Northern general. Serafina didn't flinch. She stared straight ahead. It was a good trap. Her voice shook, not with fear, with pride. Draven stopped behind her chair. He smelled her. Soap, wine, the underlying scent of winter and wildflowers that had haunted his cellar. He touched a lock of pale hair, softer than the silk she wore. He leaned down. His lips brushed the shell of her ear. You aren't a servant. The vibration of his voice made her shiver. No. And you aren't just a mother. He gripped the back of her chair, knuckles white, their eyes locked in the reflection of the silver platter. The game ended. Hello, Princess Serafina. Her breath hitched. She didn't beg. She turned her head, meeting his gaze. It's about time you noticed, Your Majesty. This wasn't a negotiation. It was a war. And for the first time in years, Draven wasn't sure if he was going to win. He smiled.
Dust and rotting leather clogged the air. Serafina merged with the shadows of the bookshelf. Her finger traced the spine of a tome she wouldn't read. She waited. The heavy door clicked shut. She pulled the crumbled paper from her pocket. A servant with purple eyes, a northern spy, had slipped it to her. The paper weighed 1,000 pounds. It weighed like hope. Her thumb broke the wax seal. Blue, the color of her father's banner. She scanned the messy ink. Princess. We are inside. The usurper falls tonight. But the bloodline must be pure. Her eyes snagged on the next words. You cannot bring the wolf spawn. Euthanize the abominations before you signal. Cleanse the throne. Serafina's lungs seized. Euthanize. Abominations. They didn't mean Draven. They meant the boys. Her world tilted on its axis. General Kyle, the uncle who taught her to ride, to fight, didn't want to save her family. He wanted to erase them. To him, Leo, Silas, and Asher weren't children. They were stains on history. A sob clawed at her throat. She swallowed it down. Bitter bile. She stared at the fireplace. Flames licked the grate, hungry and bright. She walked to the hearth. No tears, no screams, just ice flooding her veins, burning colder than the fire. She held the letter over the flames. She had no people. The North wanted her sons dead. The South wanted her sons dead. She dropped it. Paper curled, blue wax boiled. The command to cleanse the throne turned to black ash. Grey dust settled on the logs. The princess of the North died in that fire. Only the mother remained, a mother alone in a castle of wolves.
Acrid smoke stung Draven's nose. He stood in the library doorway. He had followed her. Of course he followed her. She was a strategist. She was dangerous. She had met a spy. He saw the exchange. He let it happen. He needed to know if she would try to slit his throat while he slept. But she wasn't plotting. She was burning. The blue silk dress swallowed her small frame, but her spine was a steel rod. Draven's gaze shifted to the fire. The last corner of parchment turned to ash. Blue wax, the northern seal, orders, burned. Why? Draven stepped into the room. He moved like smoke. Bad news from home? She spun. Her eyes were wide, not guilty. Empty. A house where the lights had been smashed out. I have no home. The air between them crackled. Draven closed the distance. Heat radiated from her skin, warring with the chill in her eyes. They found you. A statement, not a question. Your general sent a message. Yes. And? Draven pressed. Does he want my head on a spike? Serafina stared at the fire, then at him. Her eyes were bone dry. He wants my sons in a grave. Her voice fractured. a tiny crack in a frozen lake. A growl started deep in Draven's ribs. It vibrated against his breastbone, primal and violent. Threat. Someone wanted to hurt the pups. He reached out. His hand engulfed her chin, rough skin against soft silk. He forced her to look at him. And what did you do? She didn't pull away. She leaned into his palm, a warrior too tired to hold up her own shield. I burned their bridge. I burned them all. Draven understood. Treason against her own blood. She chose the monster's children over her kingdom, an exile, just like him. Something in his soul snapped into place. The loneliness, the crushing weight of the crown, the violent need to protect what was his. Then you are one of us now. His voice was gravel and velvet. He released her chin. His hand slid down the column of her neck, resting heavy on her shoulder. An anchor. The political game turned to dust. Come, he said. If they want to kill my heirs, they will have to come through the king. She nodded. She stepped closer. She didn't flinch. She stood in his shadow. For the first time in 3 years, she wasn't hiding. She was ready to hunt.
Freezing wind slapped Seraphina awake, not the drafty chill of the castle, the wet, biting bite of the outside world. Her eyes snapped open. The fire was dead, velvet curtains whipped inward, dancing like ghosts in the dark. The heavy iron latch, checked 3 times before bed, hung loose, snapped, melted. Her heart kicked against her ribs. She sat up, strained her ears for the guards. Silence. No breathing, no shifting armor, just a heavy, thick air that smelled of copper. Blood. Seraphina scrambled from the chair. She rushed to the crib. The triplets slept on, warm, soft, oblivious to the predator in the room. Wake up. She shook Leo. She shook Silas. Quiet. Don't make a sound. She scooped up Asher, grabbed Leo's hand, tried to lift Silas with her remaining arm. Her knees buckled. The math didn't work. 3 years ago, they were bundles. Now they were toddlers, solid, real. She couldn't carry all 3. She couldn't run. Choose. The word poisoned her mind. Choose who you carry. Choose who runs. No, never. Mama? Leo rubbed his eyes, cold. A shadow detached itself from the wall. Not a monster, a man, northern grey armor, purple eyes, her nose. Uncle Kyle. The name tasted like ash on her tongue. He didn't smile. A dagger glinted in his hand. Not a soldier's blade. A ceremonial curved edge, used for sacrifices. You should have burned them yourself, Seraphina. His voice dripped with sad duty. Now I have to do it. Seraphina stepped back. She planted her body between the blade and the crib. You won't touch them. She was barefoot, wearing a nightgown, unarmed. He was a general. He stepped forward. For the north.
Glass shattered 3 hallways away. Draven's head snapped up. His wolf didn't just growl. It roared. It clawed the inside of his chest, demanding blood, demanding speed. They are in. Draven ran. Not like a king, like an animal. Boots hammered the stone. The smell of treason grew stronger. Northern steel, wet fur. He cornered the royal wing. 2 guards lay on the floor. Throats opened. A traitor stood by the nursery door, fumbling with keys, locking it from the outside, trapping them in. Draven launched himself. No sword. He was the weapon. He hit the man with the force of a battering ram. Bones crunched. The traitor didn't scream. Draven threw him against the stone wall. Their eyes locked. The traitor's life ended. Draven didn't blink. He grabbed the handle. Locked. He pounded the wood. Seraphina. Silence roared back. Then, a voice inside. Male. It will be quick, princess. Turn away. Ice flooded Draven's veins. No. Seraphina's scream tore through the wood. Raw, broken, a mother watching death walk toward her children. Draven lost his mind. He slammed his shoulder into the heavy oak. It splintered, but it held, reinforced against armies, built to keep the world out. Now, it kept him from the only things that mattered. "Get away from him! Kale, please!" Kale, the northern general, the family, a crash inside, a child crying out in pain. "Open this door!" Draven roared. He hit it again. Again. Wood cracked. Splinters dug into his shoulder. Blood soaked his white shirt. He didn't stop. Red vision, lungs burning. 3 seconds. He had 3 seconds before his sons were dead. She was fighting. He could hear her fighting. Unarmed. Small. Fighting a general to save his bloodline. Draven took a step back. He channeled every ounce of strength, every drop of alpha power. He was going to break this door down. Or he was going to break himself trying.
The nursery became a slaughterhouse. Kyle ignored her. He focused on Asher. The toddler gripped the crib bars, knuckles white, eyes wide with a terror he couldn't name. "It is a mercy." Kyle raised the dagger. Silver caught the dying ember light. Fear paralyzed Seraphina's legs. The old Seraphina, the princess who waited for guards, the girl who believed titles were shields, froze. That girl died in the scullery. Instinct took the wheel. She didn't lunge for the knife. She would lose. She lunged for the wall, the massive woven hanging, a royal stag hunt depicted in thick wool and gold thread. It weighed as much as a man. Her fingers found the heavy velvet cord. "Kyle!" He turned his head. She yanked. Every ounce of hysterical strength poured into her grip. Rip, a sound like a snapping femur. The iron rod gave way. Gravity took over. The wool wall collapsed. It didn't flutter. It slammed down like a dead lung, burying the general in a suffocating avalanche of dust and fabric. Kale shouted, a muffled, confused noise from beneath the pile. The blade sliced through the hunt scene, but he was blinded, entangled. He flailed. He was still moving, still dangerous. Seraphina didn't wait. She grabbed the heavy brass candlestick from the mantel, solid metal, cold, deadly. She swung. She didn't aim for a limb. She aimed for the lump in the rug that looked like a head. Crack. Metal met skull. The sickening vibration shot up her arm. The struggling stopped. The lump went still. Seraphina dropped the candlestick. It clattered across the floorboards, chest heaving, hands shaking. She stared at the unmoving mound of fabric. Then Asher, still gripping the bars. Silent. "It's okay." Her voice belonged to a stranger. "The giant is sleeping."
Oak splinters rained down like hail. Draven burst into the room, sword drawn, a snarl ripping from his throat that belonged to a wolf, not a man. He expected blood. He expected Seraphina bleeding out. He expected to slaughter a general to save his pack. He found a mountain of wool on the floor, and standing over it, her, Seraphina. White nightgown torn at the shoulder, hair a wild halo of static and sweat. Barefoot. At her feet lay the general, buried under the queen's weaving. Adrenaline crashed into a wall. Violence suddenly had nowhere to go. She didn't need him. Her eyes locked with his. Not prey. Predator. Pupils blown wide, swallowing the violet irises. Flat. Cold. "Is he dead?" Draven's voice scraped like sandpaper. "I don't know." She ignored the body. She walked to the crib. She scooped up Asher, then Leo, then Silas. She gathered the triplets into her arms, muscles straining under the weight, refusing to let go. The air thickened. Not fear, not anymore. Iron. Ozone, after a lightning strike. The scent of a kill. Draven stepped over the broken door. He stepped over the unconscious traitor without checking for a breath. He stopped in front of her. He looked at the brass candlestick on the floor. He looked at the bruise blooming on her arm from the recoil. "I did what I had to do." "Shing!" Draven sheathed his sword. The metallic slide rang in the silence. He dropped to his knees. He didn't bow to the boys. He didn't bow to the crown. He bowed to her. He pressed his forehead against the white cotton of her stomach, right where she held the children. She stiffened. You saved them. He whispered the words into the fabric. You saved the pack. Her hand, the hand that had just bludgeoned a general, came down. It rested on his hair. Fingers trembled, threading through the dark strands. I'm not a victim, Draven. He looked up. Gold eyes burned with a ferocity that would terrify an army. No, you are a queen. The war outside didn't matter. The rebellionists didn't matter. The most dangerous thing in the kingdom stood right in front of him, holding his children, and she was his.
Snow buried the blood in the courtyard, a white shroud over a red sin. The northern balcony froze the air in Seraphina's lungs. Wind whipped hair across her eyes, but the cold didn't bite. Not under the weight of Draven's fur-lined cloak. It crushed her shoulders, heavy, warm, cedar and wood smoke clinging to the pelt. Her fingers tightened around the stolen ivory. The White Queen, smooth, cool bone against her palm. Last night the castle bled. Kyle rotted in the dungeon. The rebellion broke, not by a sword, but by a mother refusing to be a pawn. The oak door groaned behind her. She didn't turn. She knew the rhythm of those boots. Heavy, deliberate, possessive. Heat radiated against her spine, a living wall shielding her from the wind. The boys are sleeping. His voice scraped like gravel. Guards are doubled. Good. She wasn't planning an escape anymore. There was nowhere to run. The North wanted her dead. The South stood behind her. She turned. She held up the chess piece. You called me a queen last night. She searched his face. Was that a lie? A tactic to keep me calm? Gold eyes burned into hers. No deception, just terrifying intensity. He reached out. He covered her hand, crushing the ivory queen into her skin. I don't lie about power, Seraphina. And I don't lie about my mate. The word hung in the freezing air. Mate. He said it, out loud, in the light of day. She didn't pull away. She stepped closer. I am not a docile wife, Draven. I will not sit in the nursery and embroider while you rule. I am a strategist. I am a wolf of the North. His smile was a wicked, sharp thing. I'm counting on it.
Sun fractured the gray clouds. It lit her up, wild, messy hair, wrapped in his furs, holding a chess piece like a weapon. 10 years of fear, 10 years of the Monster King. But monsters don't build legacies. Monsters don't raise sons. Draven reached into his tunic. Gold flashed. The royal signet, heavy. The crest of the Alpha King. He took her hand. He didn't choose her ring finger. He slid the massive band onto her thumb. This grants command over the armies, access to the treasury, the power of execution. Seraphina stared at the gold. It looked alien against her pale skin. Her voice trembled. Why? This is your authority. No, it is ours. He stepped closer. He pulled her flush against him. He buried his face in the crook of her neck, inhaled wildflowers and snow. They will come for us again, she whispered against his chest. The rebellion, the Duke,